There you
Okay.
go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Religion Outside the Box. My name is Lori, and I'm the Religion Outside the Box intern. Rabbi is on holidays, much deserved holidays for the next 2 weeks. Um, I just want to do a little housekeeping note. He felt the need to send out a note with my age on it, and he was wrong. I am 59, not 61, and those 2 years may not mean a lot to anybody else, but they mean a lot to me. so so I wrote him a note and said, I'm 59. Anyway, so now you know my age. Um, at this point, I would just like to remind everyone about the important announcement that Rabbi always makes, that it's okay not to be okay. And I want to spend a couple minutes sort of clearing the floor to allow a couple of people who have had a rough time or having a rough time to speak and be seen by this community. Does anyone want to talk? We won't give you advice. It's just a chance to be heard and loved.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I gapped. What's the topic?
Oh, I just was saying if anybody would like to talk about if they're having a rough time or anything,
I see. Okay.
just to be seen and heard
And
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 loved. But
Rabbi always reminds us that he has a little thing that he signs up and holds up. It's okay not to be okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of under this sub
Yeah. And
umbrella.
I've been having a rough time. I can tell you in the last since we moved here. I've moved here in Idaho, Fairfield, Idaho. It's a very small town, 440 people. And I just haven't found my legs yet. I haven't found my community. I have a family, a loving family, so that's good. But it's still very difficult, and at times I get very depressed because we're still in the snow. 5 feet of snow, and it can sometimes I can't get out even to take a walk.
Mhm.
Anyway,
That
hard
must
time.
that must be really tough, Emily.
Yeah, it is. I keep reaching out and trying to find, you know, a community, but there just isn't. So I'm gonna have to go much farther, and so that makes me kind of anxious,
Well,
driving so far in the
does
snow.
does does the town have anything during the
Uh,
warm months, like a farmer's market or
we,
anything?
we're just going to listen.
Oh, they'll be, I mean, they have things. They have what they call the senior center here. That's sort of this, um, they start, they start with a pledge of, you stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance, and then you say a prayer. They say a prayer, a Christian prayer, of course. Uh, and then you eat. And that's sort of the center of what you do during the week. And
Doesn't sound like that is really what you want or need.
yeah, the library is very small. They rarely have books that I want, but
Oh.
I have lots of books, and I buy some used books, so I have lots of books. Incidentally, I'm reading this right now, Cast.
That
It
looks
is
interesting.
the origin of our discontent. And I had no idea, really. I had no idea that in our country, it is more of a caste system than I realized.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is.
So I'm, I'm, I don't know what I'd do without this group. And Carol's group on Tuesday, and Sunday we have another group.
Yeah. Well, just look at all the faces on the screen and see the love and know that you're
I
loved. And
that I do,
Know
and I'm
that you not
grateful
only
for it.
see our faces, that every face that you see here also has a heart that is holding you.
yes.
Yes, absolutely believe that. And in the meantime, I am so grateful for Zoom because I can, I can Zoom people, here like Meg, um, Carol, a lot, all kinds. It's been surprising to me the relationship that I can develop with, been gifted with through the Zoom.
That's-
So that I'm grateful for.
And you have been very helpful to me. As
Yeah.
a lot of you know, I'm having a rough time too. And I know that Emily will listen and commiserate and so forth. So I got to tell a story. Most of you know that my husband has Alzheimer's. And one of the things that is happening that I had never heard about with Alzheimer's, when we see a movie or something on TV, he says, I saw that last week. I mean, the Super Bowl he didn't watch because he had seen it last week.
oh,
We were at a Jewish synagogue last night to see the movie Gentleman's Agreement, which was a first anti-Semitic movie. It's a great movie. Gregory Peck and a couple other people. And we were having a discussion afterwards. And my husband says, I saw this on TV last week. Honey, you were already in bed. Now, number one, I go to bed after he does. Number two, I am sure it wasn't on TV last week. Nobody said any, everybody just sort of, how you do when somebody says something and went on, which I was very thankful for. But I saw this last week is driving me crazy. Not that I have far to go, so don't worry. It'll be a short trip. And
Well, sometimes if you, at this age, I'm finding that something that feels like last week might have actually been, 3 years ago.
the Super Bowl.
you should found out who won and made a bet.
Well, okay. So he said he saw it last week, and I asked him who won. He said the Phillies won. And then the Super Bowl happened, and the Phillies won. And my sister did say just what you said, Lori.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Does anybody else want to share before we move on?
This is relatively minor. I think perhaps only because of my wife's and my personalities, but we had to put down our cat about a week ago. We'd had this cat for a couple of years. It had this big tumor on its back. We'd had it surgically removed once, and it was growing back and getting bigger than it had been before. And it had other problems. It was about 16 years old. And so we decided it was time to, So anyways, that's kind of
One
sad, but
story.
neither of us are incredibly sentimental about cats. So it's not, I guess,
Yeah.
maybe as hard on us as some find it, but
Yeah, yeah,
I
oh,
think that I always think
thank
that.
you.
I'm sympathetic, Dan, just to show you my shirt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanks, man.
Thanks for that, Ron.
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering what that shirt was.
actually, the cemetery near where, like where the rest of my family's buried, you can get a brass thing on your stone that is the south end of a cat going north.
Oh,
And it's-
really?
And it's in brass or whatever they, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got a music note, but I'd really like to have the cat's ass, you know? I'm like, maybe I can change it while I'm still alive.
Funny. That's funny. Okay, so today we're going to talk, and I want to thank Jack It was his idea. Perception versus reality. And the fact that sometimes what we perceive is our interpretation of what reality is. And you and I can both look at something and see something completely different. And Maria, that will segue me into, I don't know if anyone remembers this dress that was on the internet. It's black and blue, but it looks gold and white. So Maria's going to put it up. And no matter what, I see gold and white. I don't know. I don't know why, but it's really black and blue.
No, are you sure it's not the other way around?
No, I thought they said it was black and blue. Oh, so there they are. Do you remember that on the
Yeah.
internet a few years ago? I guess it was about 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
the way
And-
we, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I read the secret to that. The first picture is in full light and the other one is basically in shade. So it really changes the appearance of the dress.
Well, let me,
Yeah,
Huh.
it is, it's about light exposure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, that was interesting, Maria.
but it's so funny because I still see only gold and white. I don't see any blue.
You have
Yeah,
better
but
color vision.
yeah, if you like Maria's darkening the gold one,
Yeah,
like the second picture, it's basically dark. There's no light shining on the dress. And it turns blue and black.
The
Yeah.
dress
It looks
actually
blue and
is
black.
blue and black
Yeah.
yeah.
to start with, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, they had the actual dress on the Today Show in the morning, and it's blue and
Did
black.
they?
Uh-huh.
Really?
Yeah, I
Interesting.
think Jenna Bush Hager, I think, was the one wearing it, but I could be wrong. One of those ladies.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
And
how did they get it to look gold?
Lighten,
pardon me?
they lighten the exposure.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
People who do photography would recognize the concept that if you're doing, especially outdoor nature photography, the best time to take your photographs is within a few hours of sunrise or sunset. You take pictures during the peak of the day and much of the color gets washed out.
Mm.
So if you want the truest colors to come through in your photographs, you do something with the time of day that you're taking it, or use all the paraphernalia, the umbrellas and all that other stuff that they use in fashion shoots and stuff like that. But for natural lighting,
Ron, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, just as a photographer, I do a lot of landscape. I have well over 200,000 photos in my library. And so I go out and in the hour right before sunset is called the golden hour. In the hour after sunset is called the blue hour. And
Right.
so just to throw something out there.
Yeah, thanks. Carol?
But the reason we're seeing things differently is because of something outside, which is the light. But what is more interesting is that in our heads, we have been conditioned to see things and not see other things, to overlook things, or to finally be with someone who is more open than we are and see things that we don't. I mean, if you go down the street with a little kid, you're seeing not to step on a crack, and they're seeing the different color oil in water on the side. They see the kitten that needs to be petted. They see the dog, and you realize you've been going in a kind of trance, and they're seeing things and you're not as open.
Yeah, very true. Through the eyes of children, right? Anais Nan says, and Maria's going to put this in the in the chat, says we do not see things as they are, we see them as we are.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I thought that was a really good quote. And we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to talk about perception, but I'm gonna let you watch a short video. It was actually Oscar nominated short about a fellow that came back. He was a veteran and he came back from Iraq, I believe, and he had been taught in Iraq that Muslim people were the enemy, right? In order to cope there, and he had PTSD, and he came back, and he came back with an intense hatred and fear of Muslim people. And his daughter came home one day and said that there was a little Muslim boy at school, and his mom had come with the full hijab, covered her face, and she was asking him all sorts of questions, and he went crazy. He thought, he thought all Muslims were gonna kill everybody, and he was terrified for his daughter. So he thought before he did anything, he had a plan to bomb the local mosque. And before he did that, he thought he needed to prove to his daughter that he wasn't crazy, because his daughter was looking at him like he was bananas when he was going on about this. And so he went to the local mosque expecting something from his perception, and found something completely different. Maria's gonna put, it's called Stranger at the Gate. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's very telling.
That's also a great book.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I would die for that cloth. Gladly. So I came up with a plan.
Which
I said,
channel
okay,
is that on?
not an explosive expert by no means, but I knew enough to make a bomb. Let me find a good place where I think I can get the most bang for my buck. My plan was to detonate an IED right outside the Muncie Islamic Center on a Friday afternoon when they were all gathered. And I was hoping for at least 200 or more dead, injured. At least. That was my goal, 200 or more. I knew I'd get caught. My DNA's on a national database. I was good with that. I wanted to be in court. I wanted to make my statements. I wanted to tell people, yes, I did this.
There was this boy at my school, and his mom came to pick him up, and she was in this long dress with long sleeves and a full head covering that only showed her eyes. And I was really confused by that because I had never seen that before, and I was wondering why I couldn't see anything of her. And I went home that day and told my dad about it, and he flipped out.
This little Muslim kid, future terrorist, sat across from my daughter. I blew up. At the end, I actually went into my room and just broke down and cried. I let these people get close to my family.
I was just very confused and probably scared of why he was just freaking out over what this woman was wearing. And it just seemed so weird to me and strange. And I looked at him like, what are you going on about, you crazy, crazy man?
When I have a little girl sitting in front of me, looking at me like I'm crazy, questioning, man, I really love this guy or not? This little girl's my world, man. And I can't have that happen. I need her love. So I said, okay, I know I'm right. These people are killers. And I knew that in order to be able to stand and face my daughter about this, about what I have planned, I need to be able to show her proof. I need to be able to show the rest of the world proof. So I went to the Islamic Center to get the proof. I didn't want to be with these people because if I walk inside this building, I might not come out.
When I first saw him, I was driving down the street, and then I was actually coming to the masjid. And when I saw him, he was walking kind of fast. His head was kind of down, kind of lower, you know, it was kind of red in the face a little bit. And I knew something was wrong.
So I walk in the building and all of a sudden it's like, I felt my stomach tighten up, chest tighten up. I tried to keep my senses about me. I got very anxious. I didn't trust them. I considered myself somebody as a future news story on Al Jazeera. By the end of the night, I figured they would have me in the basement with a sword to my throat.
He just, like this guy that had a lot on his mind, pacing back and forth. I remember saying, there's something not right with this guy.
He looks at me and I look at him. He smiles and he said, "Can I help you?"
My first impression of seeing him, I don't want to say like, was a little scary.
I looked around thinking about my plan. And I actually looked at individuals like, yep, he's gone. He's gone.
My first impression of McKinney was he seemed to be like a redneck. So it was somewhat scary in the beginning, but he came to the masjid and he's like a guest also. So I couldn't help it except to hug him and make him feel, not artificially, from my heart, that he is welcome and he is part of us.
To this day, that still doesn't make any sense to me. To this day. These people kill non-believers for sport. That's what they do.
No, they
It's in their
don't.
book.
No, they don't.
He sits at my feet. He hugged my leg. This guy doesn't know me. Hugged my leg. That was pretty heavy. They don't even know the truth.
That is one of my duty. When you say salam to somebody, salam, what that means to tell this other person that you are safe from me. There will be no danger for me.
I just wanted to die. That's all I wanted. I wanted the peace, man. I needed to stop the voices. I needed to stop the noise. And I just wanted the peace.
Somehow, I believe that he was genuine and he has issue. All of us have issue in the military, post-traumatic stress syndrome, whatever that might be, or some other thing. And maybe he's looking for a solution. He's looking for a solution. And if you can be a solution for him, for some of his stresses, why not to be extra kind to him?
I comforted him. I gave him the attention. I think that's the basic memory that I have. Not only just with Mac, I would do this with any guest.
These people were just plain old pleasant. Happy to be alive. Happy to be in America. Just happy. and more than happy to talk to me.
I personally believe that we need to be kind to those people even more. The people like, sometimes like they might have some difficulty, some concern, some stress. I personally believe that we should be more kind to those than people who are successful or who are already know what they're doing.
He can't completely forgive himself.
Has anybody seen that before? I know a couple people said, and so basically, at the end of it all, he accepted their kindness, and he actually joined the mosque. But in the meantime, he had bought an IED, and the FBI came and they found out about it, and they came and took it away from him. So I'm not sure. Someone said they read the book. I can't remember what happened after.
The book, it was a completely different book about accepting the stranger at the gate, about
Oh, okay.
immigrants. So, but
It
it's
was
a
different.
wonderful book. So.
Okay. Okay.
He did.
Well,
he,
I
he
know that.
joined.
He
did
joined the
join
mosque?
Yeah.
He joined the masjid and became great friends. And he actually was president of it for several years.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he totally changed because he was welcomed in with community. So,
Yes.
and that's the point that I wanted to make, was that his perceptions changed when he went there and was welcomed by them and treated kindly. So, but I think he needed to have that off perception, or they taught him that off perception, that Muslims were the enemy, because he needed that to be in combat.
Of course.
Yeah. So does anyone have any thoughts on?
I think the military does a great damage by releasing people without deprogramming them. They spend 6 weeks programming them to hate so they can kill.
Yes.
And then they let them out and they haven't been programmed to not kill.
Yeah, he wasn't able to get the support through the military.
The military doesn't support you. And people who've been really hurt by the military are being hurt even more because they're saying they're taking too much medical care.
John, you had a comment?
The one thing that fascinated me was that rather than being reactionary, which is what his original tendency was, he wanted to react to the situation. He chose, for whatever reason, in his background or in his mind, to first go and see the place instead of just doing the thing that he wanted to do. What drove him to seek that
I think
that
it's
honesty in terms of wanting to understand before?
His daughter.
His daughter, yeah, he would have lost her love.
He said she looked at him like he was crazy, and indeed that could be the triggering factor. But I found that the most fascinating, that he, with PTSD and everything else, even with that, he had kind of a crisis of conscience that caused him to pause before he merely reacted to the situation. I found that really interesting.
It shows you the power of love, because it was because of his love for his daughter that he even changed how he was gonna work on the situation, and then the love of the people at the mosque changed him. So, Aviva,
Hey y'all.
hi.
I've been lurking on YouTube watching this live. I haven't seen folks on Zoom in a long time. I'm glad to be here. And this
Glad you're here.
topic is particularly personal for me. My dad was like the only Black dude in the Tri-County area where I grew up out by Lake Erie. And he learned to ride horses. He learned to fix the roof on the farmhouse. He drove the school bus because there were so many white folks, and like they said in the video, hillbillies, that had this impression of him without even knowing him. And because of his kindness and his big smile, and he was just so outgoing. So for me growing up, being mixed, growing up out there riding horses, it was a unique experience of seeing how love can just envelop and change a whole community. But I still stand behind what I said in the chat. I think this dude's a coward. I think again and again what I see is like kind of rationalizing this fear that's coming from like a fear-based place. To me, it has less to do with the military, because my dad was in the military too. And a lot of these folks who are immigrants have been in the military in their home country, right? So to me, this is less about that exceptionalism of that experience and more about like paying attention to how many brown people on this planet are doing the reaching out and are doing the healing and the loving unconditionally. So that to me is something that I just want to bring forward in this group, because I'm thinking a lot when I'm seeing folks on the screen without being here live.
It's a lot harder to hate a real person who's in front of you than it is to hate someone who you've never met, right? And your dad sounds like your dad did a lot to show people who he was and that he was a wonderful person. Holly?
So one of the things that I wanted to address was the reason he went there wasn't only for his daughter. The reason he went there was to prove that he was right.
Yes.
So it was because of the love of the people that were in that synagogue. I mean that Islamic center, that he was able to be turned around. And I think when we think about people's experience in the military, we have to also remember that different people have different experience. Even though it's the same place, it's the same situation, people internalize their experience in different ways. A lot of it will depend on their background. He could have come from a background where that's how people behave and think, you know. He might have been already predisposed to viewing the situation that way. So the conditioning would have a different result on a person depending on where they're already coming from.
To me, like a very fearful man
Mhm.
before. And
Right.
like as Aviva said, a bit of a coward, and maybe he needed to internalize the message from the military in order to do what he had to do in combat. And yeah, maybe somebody else who is less fearful of the other might not have reacted that way. That's a very good point, Holly. Anne, you wanted to speak?
Yes, I thank Aviva for kind of opening up the topic, because as I was watching and listening, I had these thoughts. The military taught him to hate and destroy. What else does our society or our culture teach us to hate or to avoid or to disrespect or to venerate?
Very true.
Anything different.
Yep. Anything that's not the same as us.
The veneration is a big, what we venerate is also very important.
Yeah. Raul has a point to make, and then we'll do Jack.
Yeah. Like one thing I noticed, like our perception
He
always
needs to
comes from
speak closer to the microphone.
Okay.
yeah. So the one thing I always notice, like our perception comes from the experience. Like everyone, you can't hear me.
Yeah.
Tibet. Okay.
Okay.
I think you're intern. Okay. Like what I notice is like our perception comes from the experience.
Yeah.
Are you completely
I think
dropped?
they're frozen.
Mm.
Yeah, they're frozen.
Oh,
We missed
there.
a lot, Raul, because you all froze up.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we froze. Yeah.
I think the internet was like there was some glitch here. Like one thing I noticed about the perception is it always comes from the experience. For example, if I look at myself like 4 years back, like I was never being part of any spiritual community or even religious community. Like all the people I was surrounded by was like my co-workers in the office, and everybody talks about like, oh, I studied this, I got a better job, I bought this car, this phone. So I always used to think like maybe I should like buy an iPhone. Everybody has an iPhone. So all I was thinking is about like how can I find next job who's gonna pay more so I can live better, you know. Then one day I just stepped into the UFL, the Unitarian Fellowship of London, by a complete a random event. Then this 2 years, like I'm seeing a lot of the other things which is apart from like money and stuff, like the human connections, the emotions, the nature, the like all the other things which I never even thought about it before, you know. Like so that kind of changed my perception about my life right now. So it's always like good to like be surrounded by good people, have a company of good people, like hear good, talk good, see good, so you start doing good. So that's my thought. Like, yeah.
Thanks, Raul. Jack?
Yeah. The video to me is one of many templates that we can use. I've always felt that belonging to religion out of the box, what it meant to me was stepping from one area of experience into another. And the other experience was a spiritual life. And the book that I mentioned earlier is a template in itself. It's, as I said, it's roughly 140 poems, ghazals, actually, which is a story over my 45, 50-year experience of trying my best to live the spiritual life. At the same time, I accept fully my earlier life from when I became conscious up until I was 35, when I had the experience with my spiritual master. But I still, that all the values I learned as a Catholic growing up still apply in my life. But I don't acknowledge a lot of the stuff that I was taught. I thought, you know, I can accept some of it, but not all of it, because there's a lot of stuff going on there that just doesn't make sense. So the book that I wrote is if those who are interested enough in what the spiritual life is like can experience that through the ghazals that wrote, plus the information in the back. That's all.
Thanks, Jack. Bob?
Yes, that I served 4 years in the U.S. Air Force, and that I had the opportunity to interact with people on the island of Crete and also in Pakistan, and that I was never in my career uh, taught that my job was to hate or to do harm, but rather to do what I could do to preserve peace. And so that I think sometimes that we can generalize, and because a few people do something, that everybody does that thing. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that in.
Thanks, Bob. Ron?
Well, I've got a couple things. One, I was in the Air Force too. And my first duty base was Shepherd Air Force Base in North Texas. And I was a photographer for the Air Force photographer, which meant I saw a lot of different people. But my first impression walking in was running into two Ku Klux Klan members in the photo lab. And I won't tell you the whole story, but I let them know I didn't agree with them, and we didn't get along well. When I got to Southeast Asia, and I was based out of Thailand, I would run into people who had been damaged and who hated people, but I think it was there in the background. It was so easy to generalize based on your experience, but how you've been raised and the cultural milieu you come from. At any rate, that was that part. This part, there are many things that many groups of people that can be hated, not just color or religion, but there's also disabilities and neurodiversity. So this is the latest issue of Friends Journal, which is the Quaker publication. And we talk about neurodiverse people, but it's hard for some people to love people who are their basic, the way their brain is wired is different from ours. And because after 45 years in the computer industry, I've been around a lot of people that are autistic, and I get along really well with them because I've learned that. So anyway, I'm also the high school advisor of our meeting, the Junior Friends group. And every single one of the kids in my high school, in my little group of high school kids, is neurodiverse. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Anyway, that's it.
I know about neurodiversity because I have 3 people in my family that are very neurodiverse. So it's becoming more accepted through time, but it's definitely a difficult hurdle.
I just want to add in that can't remember if it's this week or the week before. Anyways, it was Neurodivergent Week. And someone had posted, a friend had posted on Facebook that basically that they're seeing it as tokenism sort of thing, right?
Yes.
You get 1 week of people trying and learning and putting posts on Facebook sort of thing, and then it goes away. But it doesn't for people who are neurodiverse, and also, you know, the ones sort of that week being held responsible for helping everybody else understand it. and putting the onus on them and not on ourselves to try to those who aren't neurodiverse, to understand and to learn about it. And it's not just a 1 week thing. It's a
Right.
life.
Very true. Very true, Maria. Greg, you have your hand up? Oh, you're muted there.
Still muted.
There.
There you go. There you go.
Um, I was born and raised in Chicago, and believe me, I had a lot of work to do to get myself to where I felt life was worth living. And I literally had to unplug the computer, my brain, and start all over again programming. And I'm glad I did that, because today, I don't care who it is, what race, color, creed, anything. I just, as a human being, when I walk up to somebody to talk with them, and I'll talk with just about anybody, um, I accept them as a human being and start at that point. And they have a choice to continue relating to me in conversation or whatever, or not. And that's up to them. I don't force anybody to continue talking if they don't want to talk. But it has been such a change for me. I'm so glad that I got to that point that I can just look at people and disregard where they're coming from. And even those who you would have a tendency to want to hate because of the crime that they're doing, you know that there is something in their background that brought them to that condition, and they're not necessarily the ones who are at fault. It's there's all kinds of factors, and so that's where I just try to take an individual at that point when I meet them and start from there. If they want to end up killing me, cutting off my head or whatever, that's up to them. But I mean, I'll defend myself, but I won't be running away from them. And so it's a hard thing to be able to accept everybody at whatever level they are at. But it's a nice feeling. It brings a lot of peace and joy.
Thanks, Greg. That reminds me of another quote that I found from I think it's a group called Conscious Discipline, and it's our perception defines who we believe we are, how we believe our interactions with others should go, and how we believe the world should operate. And Greg, it took a lot of courage for you to change the way you thought about things, and I think that intention is what got you through. So Maria put it in the chat.
I was going to go hole up in here, but I'll just sit with you.
So thanks, Greg. That's great.
You're welcome. That came about by ad I saw in the paper one time of a workshop called Loving Yourself and Others. And that's when it really hit me that I wasn't loving others the way I should because I wasn't loving myself. I wasn't accepting myself. And that's where it all started. And I'm just so glad that that was the beginning of the whole process.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, I think, with Rabbi, that that if you don't love yourself, it's impossible to love others. So very true. Very true. Okay. Maria, should we do the prayer list?
We can.
Okay.
These are the people to whom we are sending light and love. Alex T., Sheridan H., Arulane Hill, Ebony, Ron and Fran Spagna, Ron and Julie New, Mary Wolf, Mary Ellen D., the Tadeo family, Maceo and Joyce, Chris Spano, Judy Love in Spirit and her family, Alex, Gwen, Eileen DeToma, Barbara Gisandi, and Derek. If there is another person in our community to whom we can offer light and love, please put their name in the chat and I will add them to the list on Facebook. And for the people who aren't named, but who are in our thoughts, we send them light and love as well.
We'll take a minute.
Yeah, I keep the
Okay. All right. Oh, that's really nice. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, thanks, Maria. And if you'll indulge me, I have a small story about perception. I had a young man in my religious exploration classes who was very, very bright, very smart, and he was about 17 years old, and he was bored. Of course, we're trying to minister to a bunch of children of different ages and different. We don't have the luxury of keeping this young man engaged, and so he acted out quite a bit. And I found I was very frustrated and very angry with him, like beyond the point that I would have been normally. And so I talked to a friend about it, and I realized that my son, who was the same age, he's neurodiverse and has a learning disability. And I found that I was very triggered because I knew that if my son had what this young fellow had, he would be a totally different kid and be very, he wouldn't struggle like he struggles. And so I realized that it wasn't really fair that I was perceiving this child as not using his gifts appropriately. And after I realized that I was triggered, and that's a word I like to use, triggered by this young boy and the situation with my son, it changed how I reacted to this other boy. So that's an example of perception, of digging into our perception of a situation and realizing that we aren't necessarily looking at it the right way, and because we're triggered. And so I was able to work with this young man, and he ended up feeling more engaged, and I wasn't as angry. So hi, Derek, how are you?
Hi, I'm getting better, but I'm in the hospital. I'll probably be here another month.
Oh, another month. Wow.
Yeah. So it's a complicated situation.
Oh dear. I have to come to Vic to see a congregant. I was gonna see if you wanted me to pop up and see you.
Sure.
Okay. Did you have a comment you wanted to make?
No, I'm just glad to see all your beautiful faces,
glad to see you.
again. So
Well,
Good to
we're
see
really
you, Derek.
happy to see you. I'm so glad. Are you feeling a little bit better?
getting there. Yeah.
Good. good. That's great.
Thanks for your concerns and your thoughts and prayers and stuff.
Yeah, we've been
You
thinking.
have them.
Any last? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Derek.
Other than that, I don't have much to add. So
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We're just glad to see ya.
glad to be here.
That's good. That's good. Any last thoughts or comments? I have one other quote. The difference between a mountain and a molehill is your perspective. And that's an unknown author.
Oh, actually, I found the author.
Oh, did you?
Yes. It's Al Newharth.
Oh, okay.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Marie. And after you're done with that, I'm making Maria work hard today.
Yeah.
After you're done with that, can you bring up the breakout groups for the next
I
hour?
will. I'll stop the I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay, thanks everyone for your attention and your comments. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry.
I always know with this group that I'm going to have lots of comments and I don't have to worry as much about content.
Your content